Welcome to Take a Breath, a podcast for creating practical calm in the messy middle of midlife. I'm Polly, and this is your space to pause. Because life in midlife is full on, between work, family, menopause, and the mental load, your nervous system can easily end up in constant overdrive, leaving you feeling exhausted, reactive, and overwhelmed by even the smallest things. Each week, I'll share my own tools alongside honest conversations and practical nervous system support to help you create more calm, peace, joy, and inner steadiness. So whenever you're ready, let's take a breath in through the nose, feel your belly rise, your ribs expand, and as you exhale, let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to Take a Breath. Now, this week, I am chatting to the wonderful Lisa Clarke. Lisa has been part of my Inner Space community now for about a year and a half. Lisa has a couple of businesses. She has a catering business. She also has a wonderful looking business where she teaches people to make the most delicious looking chocolates. So do go and check her out. I'll put her links below if you're interested in any of that. But the reason I'm sharing this episode with you is because I have heard from Lisa how much these breathwork sessions which I run have helped her with anxiety, with stress, with trauma, and also more recently with her ADHD diagnosis. And more I'm getting to hear that what we do with breathwork can be a brilliant way to help that ADHD brain to focus, to calm. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Lisa she's a great fan of what I do. Just to reiterate though, it might not be breathwork for you. It might be something else. And there is always something out there for everyone to help with this busy brain mind noise, which more and more most of us now encounter in our busy modern world. So I do hope you enjoy this episode. If you would like to come and try an Inner Space session, you can try one for free. Do get in touch. All the details are in the show notes. So without further ado, please welcome the absolutely gorgeous Lisa Clarke. Lisa, welcome to Take a Breath. Thank you for being here. And I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Lisa, you have been working with me now for over a year, which is amazing. And it's been such a joy to have you in my Inner Space community, and you show up regularly. And I just thought it would be really wonderful just to find out a little bit more about you and to share that with the listeners, because I know that I've seen you really go through a bit of a transformation using these tools, which I teach in the Inner Space. And you've got a lot to share, which might help others, in their own stories with stress and with anxiety and all those different feelings that are so common for so many of us at midlife. So shall we just start? Do you want to just tell everybody a little about you and really where all of this kind of started for you?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. Like all women of my age, I'm in my mid to late 50s and living midlife life, which I have to be honest, I found a bit of a struggle. And I found myself juggling not only one, but two businesses after COVID, which wasn't really the intention for me at this stage of my life. My children are all just left home in the last couple of years, my older children, and our youngest is about to go to university. So that's a massive shift, a change in my identity as a parent. And within my marriage, my husband and I will suddenly not have any distraction, which is exciting to look forward to. But in general, I have found the breath work has been the most incredible addition to my weekly routine. So thank you so much. You
Oh,
popped
well,
into my life without me
it's been a
realizing.
complete pleasure because so when you found me, which you was it was by chance, really, wasn't it? It just I sort of just popped up
Totally.
somehow.
Yes. Yeah, the journey actually started with another breathwork instructor who was somebody that I knew from my 20s, um, a man, and he came into my life because he, out of the blue, phoned and asked if he could pop in and have a cup of tea. He was taking a child to a tennis match quite close to where we live. And it was so lovely to hook up with him again after so many years and find out where his life journey had taken him. He'd been a very successful banker and was now training to be a breathwork instructor, which I just found mind-blowing, such a change in his identity. So he asked me if I would like to be one of his guinea pigs. And essentially what happened was I went through this journey with him where I didn't really know what breathwork was or really understand the use that it had to me in my life because I was helping him with his qualification. But Polly, he was the most terrible breathwork instructor.
Really? Oh God.
Yeah. And so I came to recognize that although I really enjoyed the exercises that he taught to me, that I did it on my own in my own time, when we actually had our one-to-one catch-ups, I got massive anxiety over what he was asking me and what he was telling me. He didn't really listen to me. But I also became really aware that the last time we had a meeting, he told me that I was using the word trauma far too much. He told me off, and that I was to remove it from my vocabulary and I wasn't allowed to use it again.
Oh my
So I took
goodness.
that on board and said thank you, although I was really horrified, but it really made me think about why I was using this word. And probably about 6, 8 weeks later, you popped into my Facebook feed. We have a friend in common, a really good friend to you, and someone who helped me with some work at home. And yeah, you popped into my feed, and I was just really intrigued who you were and what you were talking about. And so I saved you and I listened to you on the way home from dropping one of my children at school one morning. And when I got home back outside my house 20 minutes later, I was literally crying my eyes out, really, really emotional. And yeah, I just looked at your website and did a bit of social media stalking and decided that maybe you were the breathwork instructor that I needed in my life. And you so have been that person.
Oh, and actually, that's a really good lesson in that, there's people that, one person might not be right for you. It's about finding your person who connects with you, who's right for you. And, it's just different ways of doing things. And I really believe that you really have to maybe sometimes try a few people before you find your person.
For
So
sure.
let's just go back to this sort of how you were feeling at the time. So you mentioned that you were using the word trauma, things had been going on. It sounds to me like your nervous system was in quite a high state of activation, of stress. What was actually happening at that time for you? I know that COVID had been really difficult for you.
Yeah, so COVID kind of, I guess, was where the layers started. Just purely because my husband and I, both self-employed, both reliant on hospitality being open and legal to trade. And it was a really, really tough time in our family household as far as just putting food on the table because you suddenly go from high income and busy working life to no income and pivoting and trying to think of ways of bringing in income. So that had been a really traumatic, stressful time. Not that anybody died in our family. We were really lucky and blessed with that. But ultimately, we decided to move house, consolidate everything we had, and we moved 10 minutes to the coast to a beautiful town called Clevedon, which is just south of Bristol. And we arrived here with sort of not much positivity about our move. We'd left our family home of 20 years. And little by little, we came to realize that we'd actually landed in the most beautiful, magical, healing place. And I started cold water swimming. I've got the sea, the Bristol Channel, less than 3 minutes from my front door. And I found a little church hall where I could do one of my businesses, which is I teach people how to make handmade chocolates. So that's a really lovely way of earning an income. So I was doing that in a little church hall about 3 minutes from our front door, having in the past had a workshop in a converted barn behind our house in the home that we lived in for 20 years. So it was a little bit of a change, having to load and unload all of my kit. And also my background as a chef meant that I decided to go back to event catering. And that was the second business, is the second business. So I have these two businesses. So one is called the Chocolate Tart, the chocolate school, and my catering is called the Clevedon Cookery Club. So little by little, word was spreading that I was still trading as the Chocolate Tart, and little by little, people got confident enough to start coming back and booking, and word spread about my catering. So in the meantime, it was 2 years ago now actually, I had this really hideous week, just a Monday to Saturday nightmare week, which started off, it was a bank holiday Monday. I woke up with a really horrible eye infection. My eye was really swollen. I felt really, really run down. And I ended up at the eye hospital and I had to have a cyst drained out of my eye and then come home and put drops in it. And I had to do all sorts of horrible things to my eye. So that was horrific. And then the following day, I had a phone call to say that the most gorgeous teacher in my children's lives had passed away of a horrible infection, just something that she couldn't fight. And it was such a shock because she was such a healthy person and so loved by my family and my children particularly. So that really knocked me. And then 2 days after that, so we're now at Thursday, I was teaching our youngest how to back into car parking spaces in a supermarket quite close to home. And as we finished doing that, we were driving in perfect driving conditions, blue sky, hardly any traffic around. And we were driving home. My son was driving and I was sitting next to him explaining, as we were approaching a blind roundabout, the legalities of car wheels being allowed to go over the paint of a blind roundabout. And as I was waxing lyrical about this, we happened to pass two young girls who were walking on the pavement next to the road, and one of them decided to cross the road without looking at the same split second as we passed her. And the outcome of that was, the first thing I knew about it was this child's face was flat in front of mine on the windscreen. And temporarily, she was sucked up the bonnet and then flicked off over my wing mirror and was quite a long way back in the road in the gutter. And my son, with his provisional license, did an incredible emergency stop. And I just legged it out of the car back to this child. And she was with her friend, who, of course, was beside herself with trauma. And the outcome of that, well, I'll just say quickly, she just had a minor head injury, but I didn't know this at the time. But the outcome of the following 40 minutes was me being with this child, thinking that she was going to die, and also my son imagining how he was probably going to go to prison. I'm initially thinking we would both go to prison, and then thinking that my son would go to prison if this little girl died. And there was a lot of ambulances and police cars, and then an air ambulance came. So obviously just really, really heightened anxiety for me. But I stayed calm throughout. And then I was with my son when the police interviewed him and breathalyzed him and asked him if he'd been drinking, which he said he had because he'd been on a geography field trip all day and he'd drunk a lot of water, which was just so sad that his misunderstanding of their question. So that was hard. And then the following day, I cooked a dinner for 40 people. And the day after that, I cooked a dinner at a massive social party for 200 people and held it all together. And it was it pushed me to my absolute limits of being a swan, basically. And then everything just started to unravel after that. And it was during that period that I came to be working with my friend who wasn't the greatest breathwork instructor. And about a month later, there was a fire in the house next door to where we live, which is flats. And two people died in it, our neighbour and a friend who was visiting him. And so that was also really traumatic. And I became the person after that fire that the mother of the tenant, who's in her 80s, she latched onto me as the sort of the last contact that she had with her son. So really, really lovely lady. She was calling me a lot, and I was really honoured to be that person to listen to her trauma that she felt about her son passing away in the fire. But it was just all too much. And then your podcast popped into my newsfeed, and as I said earlier, I, for whatever reason, listened to it, and it just goes to show that sometimes what you need and what you're looking for in life, it can just fall unexpectedly into your lap. And you fell into my lap, Holly, and I'm so grateful.
I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love, and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their true hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their true collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off. Oh my goodness, Lisa. I mean, that is a lot. And can we just say that, obviously it was a terrible accident, that car accident with your son, and luckily she was okay. Obviously it was all, the outcome was all as good as it possibly could be. It was nobody's fault. It was just a horrible accident. But you would have experienced extreme trauma with that. That is an awful situation. But on top of all those other things that you said, and I think this is just a really good illustration of life. I mean, it's a lot. And particularly as a mum, as someone who's running their own two businesses, as a friend, as a neighbor, this is such a good example of us as women, particularly midlife women, who are wearing so many different hats and holding it together for so many other people that actually sometimes we forget what we need. And it's really when we're in that role that actually we can manage it like you did. You said you kept calm, you managed it, you were that person for everybody else. You did your cooking for all those people and you were there for everybody else. But you can only do that for so long. And then after a while, as you said, the unraveling begins, and it's really bloody hard to keep it all
Mm.
together. And that is when we really need to, take care of ourselves. And actually, when we can keep doing something for ourselves on a regular basis, kind of ticking over, even when not when we're not unraveling, that is when we can actually manage all these situations more calmly. I mean, you sound like you did an amazing job holding it all together, but what we don't want is for the unraveling to start. What can you just explain, Lisa, when you say when it all started to unravel, what did that look like for you?
So what it looked like was I just could not move on from the split second memory of this child's face flat on the windscreen right in front of my face on the passenger seat. I just couldn't get her out of my head. I really, really struggled with being able to to kind of heal from what had happened, whereas my son coped really well with it. Um, I just could not move on. And in reality, at home, I I luckily had a quieter period of work, and I was getting up and saying goodbye to my husband, or he was bringing me a cup of tea in bed when he went to work at 7:30 in the morning, and I was just going back to bed. Um, I was just cocooning myself. I was trying to sleep to escape the memory. Um, I was grieving this lovely teacher who died. And then I had more trauma because I had three girlfriends who were diagnosed with terminal illnesses. So two had brain tumors. Sorry, one had a brain tumor and two had ovarian cancer. And one of those lovely ladies was my sort of work wife with my event catering. And so that was just
Mm.
horrific. She went from being really fit and healthy and working beside me to just unable to even put a text together. In fact, the same happened with all three of them. Their texts became less and less coherent. Um, and then it was just a case of waiting for the message from their family to say that each one had died. So when I very first started my breathwork with you, Polly, there were so many sessions where I was just crying my eyes out whilst we were doing the breathwork, and I found it really cathartic and a really good way of letting my emotion out in a safe, cocooned, private space. Um, the breathwork classes happen with numerous other ladies, and we can see each other if we choose to, but we can't see each other if we choose not to, because you just have to scroll across. In fact, I think it took me nearly a year to even realize I could see the others when we were practicing. So it just feels really safe and cocooned. And so each of those friends passed away. I hope they had a dignified and gentle passing. I'm sure they did. But it really, really helped to just be able to give myself this space 3 times a week to capture my own, control my own emotion, and give myself the time. I don't know if everybody else feels the same with breath work, but I start to think about things that I've pushed to the back of my head that I can't think about in my normal day-to-day life. So it's a really lovely space to be able to just hold thoughts that are maybe a little bit too big during the normal part of the day.
I will say, what you were dealing with was huge. And obviously, breath work is not going to fix it. But I think what it does, as you say, is that space that you are carving out just for you, for yourself, 3 times a week. And I think as busy women, it's very difficult to find time where you are in a situation where actually you can stop, you can pause,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you can
Pause.
just be. and there's someone there holding that for you. That is a powerful thing. And I mean, it's amazing hearing you reflect that back to me because, obviously I turn up, there's a few, there's other people there, but that's exactly my intention. It's that to give you that space to pause, to be, and obviously take from it what you need in that moment. So I'm delighted that it's been so helpful. What I'm interested in, Lisa, how, and not to talk badly about your other breathwork man, because I'm sure he's doing a great job for some, for other people. But what did you find was different compared to him with me?
Well, what I find with you is I feel really energized. Um, what I found with him was he was quite obsessed with training me to be able to hold my breath for a really long period of time, which I can do sometimes and I can't do others. So we've already done breath work this morning, you and I. You did a lovely session this morning. And I really struggled to do the exercise today because I'm a little bit run down at the moment. I've got a cold and hay fever, and work life's been really busy. But other times I can hold my breath longer than you're actually asking us to in the class. So you've taught me that you kind of move with how your body feels as far as breath work, and that it's energizing whether you're doing it well or not within a class structure. But also, I feel like you've taught me this superpower that I can use my breath work. I can use what you've taught me in all of these classes that I think I've actually been doing a year and a half. I might just feel in a social situation that my anxiety levels are rising, and I can start doing breath work. And
Yeah.
no one knows. It's like this
Yes.
little secret weapon that I can just
Yeah.
pull out of my brain, um,
Yes.
and practice without anyone knowing. And it's so calming. It's so comforting. You've taught me how to breathe properly. I realize now I have not been breathing properly all my life. And now I know how to breathe properly. And I just think that that is something that's so important for everybody to learn and understand if like me, they're sort of needing to find a pause in day-to-day life and a quiet space, or just to feel energized.
I mean, that's such a big part of it, really, is learning to breathe properly. And of course, there's lots of different sorts of techniques, but really at the core of it is about learning how to breathe most efficiently. Because when we are really stressed and anxious, we tend to breathe in a way which obviously isn't helping us. I think a lot of people, they might try some sort of breath work as a one-off, but actually what I really believe in, it's the consistency of a practice which obviously makes it better over a long time, because you can then translates into your everyday life. What would you say about the consistency? How have you, because you've been remarkably consistent in the last year and a half, how have you made that happen? Because it's hard for people to show up regularly to something.
I know, Polly, you're like a drug. I just I don't understand why everybody isn't doing it. I just don't understand. So many people, it comes up in conversation often, and so many people say, "Oh yeah, I did that once," or "Oh yeah, we did a bit of breath work after a yoga class," or I know that there's breath work within yoga and Pilates, but honestly, you make it so easy. It's 3 times a week, 7:30 in the morning until 10 to 8. So for me, without a school run anymore, it just fits so brilliantly
Yeah.
with my daily routine. Um, it gives me a sort of reason to be up and awake at 7:30 in the morning if I haven't woken early, to just check in, do the breathwork class for 20 minutes, and then start my day. Often I might go for a swim afterwards or go for a swim before. And then I feel like I've ticked the me box before the day started. Um, it's so easy, it's so affordable. If I miss a session, I can hook into your little handy app and listen to the breath work later in the day or in the evening. It's so easy. You've made it really easy.
Well, that's good to hear. And I think, obviously at 7:30 can be a bit of a nightmare time for people who've got kids trying to get at them at the
Yeah,
house, doing a school run. And I do appreciate that. But obviously, there's never going to be a best time for everybody. But there, as you say, there is a really handy app where you can catch up and it's good. And actually, sometimes I even listen to my own sessions because obviously to check that it sounds all right. But also, it's just I do find them quite they're just quite relaxing. It's just good.
so
You're just guided.
relaxing.
You literally just have to press play and off you go. We've been talking a lot about breath work. I'm actually going to change. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about changing the name I use of breath work to more of breath flow because I think it isn't really work what we do. Some breath work is very full on, but we're doing more like we're doing sort of flows. We're trying to help the breath flow through the body. And I much prefer that. Often breath work, that word work can really put people off. It's like, oh, I don't want any work. But
Yeah,
actually,
no,
what we're
it's not
doing,
work.
it's not. It's much more flowy. Try and make it as easy as possible and enjoyable as possible. This is gentle, it's feminine. A lot of it can be, which you see from other people doing, is quite hardcore. It's very masculine. It's a bit macho. It's that sort of real hyperventilation.
Yeah.
That's not what we do.
No,
It's
it's not
much
that at
more.
all.
It's
Very,
much more
very
gentle.
elegant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So Lisa, well, I'm really grateful that you've come on and you've shared your story, and I'm just so grateful that I've been in some small way able to help you through this really challenging time. Is there anything else that you feel our listeners would like to know about you? About you, how it's helped, and moving forwards.
Yeah. So all of this trauma that happened in this one 6-day chapter of my life 2 years ago just led me alongside with the breath work to really start analyzing myself and wondering why I couldn't move on from all of the catastrophes of that week. And ultimately, I came to, through the Right to Choose platform, I came to be diagnosed with ADHD, which is something that I so understand myself better now. And the breath work alongside this diagnosis has been the drug that I'm not on any ADHD drugs at the moment. I'm in a list waiting, but it's really helped me to calm myself in all the situations that I'm looking around the room and thinking, why isn't everybody else reacting in the way that I feel I'm reacting? So I can't thank you enough for that. Having this diagnosis for me is a really good thing. I can't
Mhm.
believe I've gone through so many, well, my whole life without ever recognizing and realizing that this is me.
ADHD is out there at the moment. It's a lots of people are talking about it. The awareness has really grown, and lots of people are discovering that they are ADHD, and it does show up in different ways. How does it show up for you, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not unusual that somebody would be in their late 50s with a new diagnosis. I think how it shows up with me was talking about what happened with the car accident, how calm I was in the chaos. That's an ADHD trait, is being able to tread water and stay calm and focused in a really chaotic situation. Also,
Which is a real
it's
positive,
a
right?
real positive,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, now I'm sharing my diagnosis. So many people are sharing with me that they also have ADHD or suspect that they have. I know an unbelievable number of people who are going down the same route as me with the right to choose through the GP.
In terms of your ADHD, is
Oh,
it,
how does it present?
yes, how does it present itself?
Yeah, so catastrophizing
Right. Okay.
massively. And there's been so many times throughout my life. So, for instance, I put on a massive event. I give 125% for the run up to that event. So I cooked a wedding a couple of weeks ago. I worked on it for a week by myself, and then my team, my freelance team, sort of joined me towards the end of the week. And then obviously on the day of the wedding, we were a big team of 14. It was the most beautiful day, the most gorgeous guests, divine menu, everything was perfect. And I said goodbye to the bride's parents at the end of the evening and the bride. And the bride said it'd been the best day of her life. And, you know, she was
Oh,
absolutely
amazing.
thrilled. And the bride's parents were so grateful and happy and thanking me. But then I spent the rest of the weekend, it was a bank holiday. I spent the rest of the weekend checking my phone to see if I'd had any more feedback from the bride or her family. And in my head, I was catastrophizing. Did I poison everybody? Did they not really like the menu? Had they just said thank you because they were face to face with me? My mind was going crazy with all the negatives rather than just basking in the positivity of I'd executed with my team a really incredible, beautiful event. And I now look back at my life of all the ridiculousness that I've put myself through of doubting myself, this feeling of imposter syndrome. I'm the first to say I can't cook. I'm the first to think that I'm useless at the things that I am good at. I need constant validation. And I come to now understand that that's an ADHD trait. Classic.
Do you feel now that you have that awareness? So when at that wedding, although you were catastrophizing afterwards, how soon after did that awareness kick in that that is what you were doing? Because you can still do it, the catastrophizing, but it's catching yourself doing it and knowing and going, oh, I'm doing it again, which is quite powerful. It's when you're catastrophizing and you can't stop it. So I'm just wondering, how soon after did you realize that you were doing that?
Um, I probably realised the following morning when my husband said, "Get a grip," and he
Yeah.
looked at all the photographs and the footage that I'd taken of the catering end of the event. So yeah, probably by 11 o'clock the following morning, I was listening to one of your breathwork sessions on the app, and just trying to compartmentalize the positives and to take myself away for that pause that you offer in your sessions and to really just focus on stopping myself from this fast, shallow breathing that I do naturally without even thinking when I'm catastrophizing.
Yeah, so that's interesting because I was hoping you were going to say that it's what we do 3 times a week. It is really so much an exercise of self-awareness, of catching your
Yeah.
thoughts when they are, we're not, none of us are ever going to be perfect. We are always going to fall into these unhelpful thought patterns. We're human, but it's how quickly can we notice them and then kind of pull ourselves out. And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if that's now a little bit easier for you. You're still doing it, which is, that's part of your ADHD trait, but is it a little bit easier for you now to sort of pull yourself out of it
Oh,
rather than stay
yes,
stuck in
for
it?
sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's,
that's really interesting. That's good to hear.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I just feel I have a little gift that I
Yeah.
can, it's like
Yeah.
this sort of pulley in my pocket. I can pull my phone out, pull up the app, and on you go. You
Oh,
know, you've
brilliant.
been so many places with me, Polly. You've been skiing with me, you've been to Sri Lanka, and we've been places with you.
Yeah, you have. You've all been with me to various
Yeah,
different
we can all
places.
go with each other
I
in
know.
this kind of tribe of women who, I mean, there are actually two of my friends who've joined your breath work, and they both absolutely love it as well. And I have no idea who the other ladies are. Hopefully one day we might all come together.
Yes,
But
I
they're
hope
all
so.
familiar faces. Don't really know anybody's names, but they're just there in the tribe 3 mornings a
Yeah.
week.
Oh, well, Lisa, it's been so lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing, for being such a fan. I mean, I really am so grateful,
Oh,
and
I'm such a fan.
I know
Top
that you
fan.
have really, helped get more people on board. You're so positive about what I do, but equally, I'm so grateful for you for being here. I'm so delighted that it's supporting you in some small way. So thank you so much. It's been so good to talk to you.
No, it's supported me in a massive way, Polly. And so thank you to you. Thank you for showing up 3 times a week.
Thank you. Before you go, just to let you know that you'll find a selection that all designed to support your everyday breathing, to ease anxiety and help you build a more resilient, flexible nervous system so you can feel calmer and bring a little more steadiness into your daily life. Everything I share is designed to meet you where you are and to fit into real busy lives. Just go to pollywarren.com and click on the resource library. If you'd like to stay connected between episodes, you can also find me over on Instagram at Polly Warren Coaching. This is where I share simple reminders and tools and reflections to help you come back to calm throughout the week. And if you're enjoying Take a Breath, it would mean so much if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help this podcast reach more women who might need a little space to breathe too. Thank you so much for being here and for taking this time for yourself. And remember, sometimes all you need to do is take a breath.